Yo, you're watching 24/7 TV. Harry Shotta, DJ Fantasy in the place. We've got a very special guest live and direct in the building right now, Jimmy Kyriacou. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah,
you all right?
It's good to see you, man. Obviously, we've worked together. Today, we're going to talk about the projects you've been involved in, and also just basically go a bit deeper into augmented reality for those who don't know.
Excellent.
So tell us about yourself, man. What's your background?
So my background is a mishmash, really. I've spent the last sort of 15 years in the internet space, and the last 5 years I've been really focused on working with tech startups. On the side of that, I've also been focused on working with companies and individuals that have a big impact in the kind of emerging technology and art space that are really fusing those two things together. And of course, my deep love of music is naturally drawing me more towards companies that are doing something in that space too.
That's good, man. So let's talk about Behind the Face.
Yes.
Let's tell the people all about that. What's Behind the Face all about?
So Behind the Face was a bit of a crazy idea I had a few years ago, where I often wander around the streets, in normal hours, and you often see faces, and you don't know anything about that person. And over the years, I lived in the Camden area. I used to see these really interesting people, but didn't know who they were. And then a few years later, I maybe have a meeting, and someone mentions that person's name, and I realise it's that guy that I used to see walk past, and we never spoke to each other. So I thought to myself, it's fascinating, all these people we're seeing, and all these really interesting people that I was having these synchronistic encounters with, but I had actually walked past them or seen them around. And at the time, I was really interested in photography and again, my other passion, which is the kind of future tech. And I just thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we just, picked out some interesting people and just put their faces all around the streets? So literally, no writing, no nothing. Just had faces of people and put them up on canals, on street corners, on lampposts. What would that happen? What would happen if we did that? At the time, it was going to be initially the QR code reader, so people would hover over it, and then you'd watch a video, and these interesting people could then tell their 60-second story, like a mini TED talk.
Yeah.
And then a good friend of mine who had recently moved to Blipper, I mentioned the idea because I've always been super fascinated with AR and how the world around us, visually we can access another layer on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
And I think at the time the tech was still kind of very new, and I wasn't sure if we could do that. But she said, "Yeah, we can do that." She circulated it around the business, and then we thought we launch a short project, which we'd selected 12 people from all different backgrounds that were kind of London centric. But for me, we're bombarded every day with nonsense, with rubbish, with people trying to sell you something, or click here, buy this, and there's no substance behind it.
Yeah.
I thought, well, let's flip that on its head, and let's plaster the streets with people that have actually got something interesting to say, and they're actually doing something to benefit society. So I did it in Camden. So I approached local government. So I had the mayor of Camden, and I just looked at all the interesting people that I knew. And some of them were entrepreneurs, some of them worked in sustainability, clean tech. I had a children's storyteller. This before you joined the project, Harry. And I thought, they're all doing something which is benefiting, the kind of Camden, London area. And how great if people would walk around and actually encounter some new technology. So they experience AR, they learn about somebody, and also for me it was an experiment. How are people going to behave when they just see all these faces just appearing, saying download an app and scan my face
and bring it to life, basically.
And bring it to life, literally. Yes. So I was shocked by the response when I initially was approaching people. Straight away everybody was really warm to the project, so that gained momentum. So back in 2 years ago now, we like a day like this where we just shot lots of 60-second videos and created the posters, and in a short period of time we just literally put them up all around the streets. No PR, no advertising.
Oh, really?
To begin with, no. I wanted to see what people did.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. And the most mind-blowing thing for me is when I saw quite an elderly lady with her granddaughter, and she scanned one of the faces, and she said to this little girl, "Have you seen those magical talking heads?" And I thought, "This is amazing."
Wow.
So, obviously it was an experiment. I think 2 years ago, I mean even now, but 2 years ago, AR still relatively an unknown
Can
entity.
I ask you,
Yeah.
can you explain what AR is?
I was going to say,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I even wrote it down.
Yeah,
Wicked.
so AR is augmented reality.
Yeah.
You've probably also heard of virtual reality.
Yeah.
So virtual reality is where you wear a headset and you basically create a whole new world. So you block out the whole of the outside world.
Yeah.
But augmented reality, you're basically placing a layer on the existing world. So you may have heard of Microsoft HoloLens as well, where you literally can look around your existing environment and you can create another layer. It could be graphics, videos, but things appear in the existing world. Whereas virtual reality, you're locked in and it's literally, it can be anything. You can be on Mars.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Wow.
mad.
Yeah, man, there's a lot going
I'm
on.
a little bit like, wow. I'm trying to take it in.
There's a lot, man. There's definitely a
Well,
lot.
think about this. I mean, you guys are creatives. Sometimes you can't explain something with words, and this
Yeah.
goes back to the consciousness thing. There are some things there isn't a word for it,
Yeah.
but you can visually you can see it. And I think that what AR is doing is it's allowing you to learn about something because you might not know what it's called. There might be a certain type of plant growing, and you want to know what it is.
Yeah.
But what do you Google? Plant? You're going to
Yeah.
get millions
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
up.
yeah.
But if you scan it, then the phone will know exactly what that is and relay that information. So
crazy.
And would that be through the app, the Flipper app?
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the Blipper app. Yeah, so
The
there's
Blipper app.
Blipper is just one company that's doing it,
Yeah.
and it's the company I partnered with. But there are others. But that's the concept of AR, where you're using technology, smartphone. I mean, we're very quickly heading to a world where you'll just have like a contact lens in, and there won't be a device. I mean, I think right now everyone's so fixated again on headsets and
Yeah.
things like that. But we're not far away from a contact lens. In fact, probably someone's doing that right now,
Yeah.
where you're able to it's in your daily life. So you may have heard of Google Glass, which was around a few years ago.
Was that the little glasses they had?
Yeah, that didn't really take off as well, but you've now got Microsoft HoloLens, which is very, very cool, and I think even Snapchat have launched some spectacles now.
Have they?
And Snapchat are doing something quite extraordinary right now, where they're moving into a space where they're becoming more of a brand, like Nike, as opposed to a social media site. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But again, that's the fusion of technology, of social media, connectivity, and the real world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So I can see from what you're saying why you chose AR, particularly with what you're doing.
Sure.
You know, the whole behind the face thing. Do you want to just go into how we hooked up?
Yeah, sure. So I think it was Matthew Eisner from Startup Bootcamp
Yeah, that's
met
right,
with your manager David
That's right,
Ross,
yeah.
and I think it was Matthew was aware of some of the projects I've been working on. In fact, if my memory serves me correct, Behind the Face sponsored Unbound Global, so we had some of the posters at one of their events, and then we met in King's Cross.
That's right, yeah, just down the road from here.
And what I find quite funny is if you'd have told me 25 years ago that I was going to be meeting a drum and bass MC in King's Cross, I would have thought it would have been for something completely different.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought we would be meeting about something so crazy as this? I
Yeah.
mean, just remember there wasn't even social media back then, let
This
alone
is pre-MySpace days, guys.
Yeah.
pre MySpace. I mean, the record. If we could talk about the music scene, the record shop was social media.
Yeah.
That was where the
Yeah.
flyers were, where the people were. You found
Yeah.
out the information, or a mobile phone or a pager.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's quite extraordinary how that happened.
Yeah.
And I think for me as well, I again back to my other passion of tapping into people that are doing things that they're passionate about, and with what you've been doing, or both you guys have been doing, couldn't be any further from that. And I think when you're so plugged in and tapped into something, and you've got this warm young audience, because the future is in the younger generation.
So what work have you guys done together then? What work have you, because since you met,
Yes.
what work have you done together?
So after the initial Behind the Face project, where we placed all the posters around the streets, I then used that concept, and we sponsored a couple of events, and we had that same concept where we had speakers of events, and we had their faces around the actual venue. Then when I met with Harry and David, we then produced another Behind the Face, which was where Harry did like a 30-second exclusive rap, which was again activated by Blipper, same concept. So Harry's there with, which you'll see later on, with his eyes closed, and when you hover the phone over his face, Harry reveals this, unlocks his exclusive content.
Wicked. We're going to show you how it all works in a
But
minute.
what's really interesting is
you.
that Blipper, just in December, have now launched a feature where you can actually start scanning people's real faces. So it doesn't have to
Oh,
be...
really?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a static image. They've launched it with some celebrities because obviously there's a lot of complexities around it looking the same. So when we were doing Harry's face, you had to, really home in and make sure that the app understood it was Harry and not somebody
Someone
else.
else,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So there's still, it's still embryonic in that sense, but I wonder where they got that idea from.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a big fan of Blipper, and I think with, where the founder Amberish, who's a super cool guy, where his big vision is right now. If you look at some of the stuff Blipper are doing, it's very brand orientated, which is absolutely what they have to do.
Yeah.
But the bigger vision is to create this encyclopedia of the real world where you can activate anything visually with a smartphone, and it reveals that information. So, right now there are certain people that are part of that project where you can go up to their, maybe if you see them in a crowd, they've got enough data points where it can access that and actually give you a video about them or links, information. You can make it do whatever you want, basically.
Or unlock secret content. There's so much. There's a lot of scope.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
A lot of scope,
There's
man.
a lot of scope. Yes.
Definitely.
It's mad.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm usually, you can't stop me talking. I'm actually sitting here going,
Taking it in,
wow.
yeah?
Oh, there's
taking it
crazy
in.
stuff.
It's
It's
mad.
So if we, if we keep it on the music tip,
What, in modern dance music or
just
as
in music as general. So
in big commercial music.
yeah, so there's a singer right now called BT Wolf. I don't know if you've heard of her. It's funny because I met her 2 years ago. My yoga teacher and friend is also her yoga teacher and friend, and I got invited to this kind of little gig. And she's a fantastic singer, but I had no idea what she's also been doing in the background in the digital space. So she, to give you a couple of ideas, so she things that she's been doing. She launched her album, I think it was last year, and it was basically on NFC cards. So you had the album itself, which I think was called Montague Place or Square, and to listen to the track, you actually hover your phone over the card. So say 12 tracks in an album, you hover it over the card, it plays the track.
So it streams it back to you, yeah?
Streams it back to you,
Right, okay.
but you also are able to learn about the artist. They can click you onto certain links. And what she's trying to do with this project is, back in the day when there were records, we owned this physical thing, right?
Yeah, it used
You
to be
had this-
nice to hold something.
Yeah,
you
you
know
had
what I
this
mean? Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
You had this piece of vinyl, you had the artwork, and that was lost with not just downloads, but with streaming now. But half the people don't even own anything. It's just streamed or shared.
Yeah.
So she was trying to use technology, but also to get people to engage with the music in a way which kind of really brings it to life. And she's also created, with a well-known fashion designer, a jacket, which again, it was a fusion of fashion and music, where the jacket had NFC parts in it where you could play music from the jacket, and interwoven into the jacket were the algorithms and the waveforms from the actual music itself. I think the thing right now is it's all about experimenting. I think we had I would say the dark phase where it was just music was like artists were being kind of like ripped off, music was being streamed, and there was nothing physical behind it. And I think now there's some really interesting things happening. And just one more thing I can't not talk about is what Imogen Heap has been doing with blockchain technology. So as an artist, you release a piece of music, you own the DNA to that track. And when that goes out, it's got all this encoding in it. I won't go into the kind of technicalities. I don't even know it myself in depth anyway. But the gist of it is that goes out into the classic channels, and the royalties go straight back to the artist. If I want to use a sample from that track, all the data is held in that original piece, and that's basically the same tech that Bitcoin is using. And she's developing that. It's kind of fair trade music.
Okay.
Which, and I think if we go to the house scene, I think Sasha had some kind of involvement in something like that as well. And there's a few people doing that now. But I think if we start seeing that evolving, all of a sudden, it's not about cutting out the middleman. I think they have a use and a need. But I think giving the artists more ownership,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really powerful and great for music.
Of course.
Yeah,
of
this
course.
is good news for the younger generation coming through, man. There's so much new
Seriously.
opportunities and stuff for them to tap into.
Definitely.
Because sometimes they feel they can't get anywhere because of maybe radio or
Yes.
TV, but there's a lot of other avenues going on right now for all the youngers, all the people coming up. So one phrase you use quite a bit is "Back to the Future."
Yes.
Yeah, what's
Yes.
that all about, man?
So I'm around a lot of tech people, and I read a lot of the tech press. I also love new technology. People look at a lot of the innovation that's happening now, and they focus in on how that is something really, 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 really new, which in some shapes or forms it is. But let me explain a bit further what I mean by that. So, of course, when new technology comes out, people home in on it. But I think a lot of what's being created right now, which goes back to my kind of consciousness, spirituality piece, blended in with the technology, is nothing new. If you think virtual reality is new, go and speak to a shaman in the Amazon or a yogi who have been taking people on virtual trips for thousands of years, except they've not been using headsets, they've been using the ayahuasca plant or something along those lines. And I think if you start looking at, where people now start talking about benefits of meditation and all these kind of things as if they're a new thing, these things are not new. And I think, so that's when I say Back to the Future, I think we're discovering these new things that are actually thousands of years old. That got lost in the kind of like the agricultural revolution when we all started getting brainwashed, but don't get me started on all of that.
No, we're just rediscovering those things in a new format as a new generation. And obviously the new generation, we know what they're like. You've got daughters, smartphone, YouTube is their TV channel.
I was just saying to Shots the other day, I was like, my kids don't watch telly, they watch YouTube.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, things are, it's so mad what you're saying about, you're right, there's so many things that have been around for years and they're sort of like people, like they do feel like they're discovering them again. It's probably because everybody's focused on other things. Do you understand what I mean? And
totally, yeah. I mean, we're as somebody who I follow greatly, a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, we're in the business of attention. Right now, I think it's 10,000 advertising messages we get every single day, which goes back to my original reason why I wanted to do something different with Behind the Face. I wanted to put something in people's faces as they're walking down the street that had no real gain than just someone telling their story, no financial commercial gain. And I think, that's right now where we're in a time right now, and I think 2017. What I'm really excited for is, I think we're really starting to see again a shift of where people are waking up. And if we look at say social media from say around about 2012 moving forward, before that it was very ego based, and it still exists. But now people are posting motivational quotes and
I've noticed the shift.
And this power of connectivity. I loved what we're working with Harry and with the message, because there was actually even though it was you bust some really cool lyrics, there was actually a really serious message in that, in covering some of the stuff we've been talking about. And I think the fact we can do that right now, I mean, it's still, we're in the YouTube HQ right now, and, this video can reach anybody anywhere in the world. And we take that for granted right now. I just think we're living in such an amazing time, and we just sometimes forget because it becomes normality. But the fact that you can broadcast the message out and reach literally millions of people within minutes, but anyone can do that, I just think it's extraordinary. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I honestly, you know what? I'm sitting here and my mind is blown, and but when my mind's blown, I'm just, my head is thinking, oh my God, what's gonna, like what could be the opportunities and the potentials that happen. It's just like, and it's funny because even when you're sitting here talking to like us, I mean, obviously Harry's been talking to you, but for me, I'm like the person watching now. They might not know, and I'm sitting here going like, wow, and I'm genuinely.
It's one of those ones you're gonna have to reload.
I think I'm gonna
check again because it's so much new information.
Serious.
That's why we really appreciate you coming down today, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It's great. Some of the stuff you've been saying is really relevant to the people who watch this, to musicians, to artists, to people who are creating stuff. So yeah.
Well, what you don't know yet is me and Harry haven't spoken about it. All your new artists coming through, we're setting up a new company so that you can come through us, through Jimmy, through Dave, through all the team,
Jimmy, thanks again for coming down.
My
it's been
pleasure.
An absolute pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
It's been very interesting.
Very interesting. And we're going to do a demo now, is that right? You're going to do a demo?
Let's do a demo of how it actually all goes
down.
Cool.
24/7 TV.
Cheers, guys. So now I'm going to show you a demo of Behind the Face using the Blipper app. So as you can see, there's Harry's poster, which will appear either on the street or it could appear at a music venue. And once people see that poster, it will direct them to scan his face with Blipper. So I'm going to open the Blipper app on my iPhone. The app is then going to ask me to tap here to start blipping, which I'm going to press. And I'm now going to hover my phone and scan Harry's face, and it will unlock the AR experience.
Paper trails, papers tell lies just to make the paper so that paper sells. Revolutionary cells on the edge, cash flow make the pledge to the profit. Now they can't stop it, get sick and take the meds. They subscribe, caught up in our daily lives, daily news, fueling the feelings we all feel inside. Poisonous products, propaganda from the devil in disguise. Take your eyes off that timeline, open your eyes to what's going on around you. Question what they tell you, what's really in that cheap food that they sell you. Question everything, really open your eyes, then you could separate the truth from the lies.
And there you go, Blipper.